In 1913, a young man presented himself to New York society as the newly appointed consular agent to Pointe-d'Aubre, a small country south of Morocco. The introduction got him into some of the nicest restaurants in town, where he met many of the luminaries of the city. It was only as he started to run up tabs at some of those restaurants that someone thought to check his story, and found out that not only was he not appointed consular agent to Pointe-d'Aubre, but that Pointe-d'Aubre didn't even exist. The man was Stanley Jacob Weinberg, a clerk from Brooklyn who simply decided that being a clerk in Brooklyn was dull and that he would prefer to be somebody else. He spent time in jail for fraud, but that did not seem to dampen that desire to be somebody else. While he was born Stanley Jacob Weinberg, he went by many names. The press called him the Fabulous Fraud from Brooklyn, or the Great Deceiver, although later in life he preferred Stanley Clifford Weyman. He was clever and confident in his masquerades, able to fool even Secret Service agents. Yet he never made an effort to alter his appearance, and was usually caught because someone in the press or police recognized him. He was, for the most part, not motivated by financial gain, and notably passed up opportunities where he could have gotten far more money from his impersonations. He was remarkable in that he impersonated for impersonation's sake, and simply enjoyed being someone other than himself. Doctors diagnosed him with various psychological ailments, but of his obsession he said, "One man's life is a boring thing. I lived many lives. I'm never bored." For example, in 1925 he read in the newspaper that there was to be a conference of physicians of every sort to be held at the Middlesex College of Medicine and Surgery in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He put on a stylish suit, carried a bag of the sort that a doctor would carry, and rode the train to Cambridge. There he presented himself as Dr. Allen Stanley Weyman of the New York State Lunacy Commission. He chatted with other doctors about his ideas for improvements in psychiatric treatment in prisons, and on that score he could easily pass himself off as well-informed, as he had spent nearly a third of his adult life in prisons and asylums, serving time for his various frauds. In Cambridge he was so convincing that he was asked to speak at the evening banquet. His speech was said to be well received and vigorously applauded. When he hopped back on the train for Brooklyn, the attendees of the conference had no idea that they had been had. He was, according to an article in the New Yorker, only discovered when he was picked up weeks later by police on the charge of impersonating a lawyer, and police found the newspaper article about the conference in his case and asked him about it. While he was often broke, he did do legitimate work, and when he had money, he would spend that on his vast wardrobe, which he would then use in his various impersonations. On one occasion, he styled himself an envoy from Romania. Wearing a fantastic naval outfit covered with gold braid and an admiral's hat, he telegraphed the Navy that the Queen of Romania had asked that he send the Navy her greetings via an inspection of a Navy ship. He was picked up by a launch and given every courtesy as he toured the battleship USS Wyoming. Overjoyed with his visit, he invited the officers of the ship to a gala reception at the Hotel Astor. He told the hotel to send a bill to him at the Romanian consulate. The dinner was somewhat spoiled, however, as advance publicity for the event had alerted the FBI, who came and arrested him. He spent 2 years in jail for the stunt. He masqueraded as a French naval officer named Lieutenant Sincere, and in that guise was invited to a stag party thrown by U.S. Vice President Thomas R. Marshall. He dressed as a Navy admiral and showed up at an Army review at the Brooklyn Armory. The Major General was about to take him on an inspection of the troops when a detective, who had been seeking him for another crime, arrested him. When he read in the paper that a princess from Afghanistan was in New York and was frustrated in her attempt to meet the president, he showed up at her door claiming to be the U.S. Undersecretary of State, there to arrange her visit. In Washington, he managed to bluff his way in to introduce the princess and her sons first to Secretary of State Charles Evan Hughes, and then to see President Warren G. Harding. The events caused a minor international incident, as the British had been trying to prevent Harding from meeting with Afghan officials. When film star Rudolph Valentino died in 1926, Weyman read in the paper about his devastated fiancée, actress Polo Negri. He grabbed his doctor bag and showed up at her hotel, claiming to be Valentino's personal physician, and said, "Rudy would have wanted me to take care of you." He escorted the grieving actress to the funeral. When police revealed him as an impostor, she refused to press charges, saying that she had never gotten better medical care. When Queen Marie of Romania visited America in 1926, the press was clamoring for an interview, but no one could get in. Knowing his legendary skills, the newspaper The Evening Graphic hired Weyman, who, presenting himself as an Undersecretary of State, gained access to the Queen and got the interview. While his impersonations were usually harmless and sometimes quite humorous, he was arrested for 2 charges that hurt his reputation with the public. During the Second World War, he was apparently running a school to try to teach young men how to avoid the draft by faking illnesses. When the FBI broke in the door of his classroom, he was heard to say, "Class dismissed." It was a serious charge during wartime, and he was sent to prison for 7 years. In 1954, he was convicted of trying to obtain a home improvement loan on a home that didn't exist. Such pedestrian larceny just seemed beneath him. But in the extraordinary life of the man who spent so much time being anyone other than himself, perhaps the most shocking story was the final chapter. In August 1960, Stanley, being no one other than himself, was the night clerk at the Dunwoody Hotel in New York City. 2 armed men entered and demanded that the 70-year-old clerk hand over the money box. He could have given it to them, no one would have blamed him. But he refused. When one tried to grab the box, he held on. It is difficult to know what was running through the mind of a person like Stanley Weyman. Maybe, some contend, he saw the chance to actually be one of the heroes he had so often impersonated. His bullet-riddled body was found the next day. The New York Daily News reported that the great deceiver ended his career dramatically as a genuine hero. If you enjoyed this History Guy short, then feel free to click that like button, subscribe to our channel, and check us out on Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our merchandise on teespring.com.